Okay, hello my friend. Hopefully that you are doing great. So in this lesson, I want to share you how to handle some basic stuff tasks. How can we get the page title? How can we get the page URL? And then we can get the path here. And how can we get the host value here? Something like that. Because when you work with some automation test project, when you do a lot of interaction with the web element on the page, after that, when we navigate to another page or another step on the same application that you want to check whether you are in the correct page by checking the page URL or the page title. So they are not hard, but as a beginner, the more you know, the better you can handle your automation test. So that's why I want to introduce. So let's go back to our IDE here and try to create a new class with the name URL-based title handle here and create a new main method. What you want to do that you will create a new WebDriver instance as before. So you can copy from the old one, or you want to retype everything to get familiar with the syntax or something like that. So try to driver the get and go to the target URL. After that, you want to maximize the window. Let's maximize here. Okay. So what we do, we will try to open this login page URL, and after that, we will try to enter the correct username and password. If we enter the correct username password, it will navigate us to the secure space, and we want to get out the page URL and the page title as well. After that, I want to share how to get the host name and how to get the path from the URL. Okay. So it's very simple because we only have the login form here. So you just grab some lab code here. So let me try to put something like the URL that we already have from the page. So copy and paste here. And I want to grab something like the username, password, and the login button here. So what I do, I have username, password, and login button here. Okay, let me try to rewrite. So here, by from selector username selector equal by dot id, and then we gonna put the id later. Just duplicate selector. So this is selector and this is selector as well. So we have username and we have password, and the final one we have the login button here. Selector. So we can grab the element here. So the ID after username. The second element is the password, and the final one is the login button. Oh, the login button should be like the CSS selector. So here, let me try to replace by the CSS selector here, and I put it here. Okay. So after that, I want to input the correct username password. So I will try to do something like, for example, I want to declare the web element equal username element equal driver dot five element username selector here, and then I will do the same for password element. So it should be the password selector here, and the final one is the login button here element. So I want to put something like the login button selector here. So that means I want to find all the web elements on the page related to username element, password element, and login button here. And after that, I want to input the username, password, and then I will click on the login button. Simple, right? You already knew about that, so you can do it quickly here. So let me do something like username dot send key. So I want to send some correct information here, and then what I do, I will use something like password element send key, and final one I will log in button element, and then I click. Let me try to crack the correct credential here from the previous lesson, from the last lesson, not the last lesson, but I mean from the login from lesson here. So I put here. So after that, that means we will log in successfully here, and then we will be navigated to the secure page, another place, I mean. So I want to do what I want to do that I will wait until this login button disappear because if we don't try to wait for this button disappear, and after that we get immediately the page URL and the page URL here and the page title. So that means we will not get the correct one, right? So we need to wait. So how to wait? I want to apply something like the explicit way. So in this case, I want to declare the web driver wait with the wait instance here equal new web driver wait. And what I do, I will put the driver instance with the maximum wait time is 30 seconds because I don't think we need more than 30 seconds to wait for this login form successfully login, right? So after that, I will wait until the expected condition that the invisibility of element located by the login button selector. That's it. After that, I want to get the page URL. So let me declare a string with the name like the page URL after login equal. And now what I want to do that I will call driver.get page get the title here, okay, and then string the URL after. Oh, this one should be the page title, okay, the page title after login, and the page URL after login here equal driver.get get the current URL, right? And then before doing anything else, I want to print out all of them. So let's try to do something like page title after login dot system print out, and then let me try to input some prefix here. That is the page title, and then another one should be the page URL is the page URL after login here, okay, and try to run it first to see what is the current values before processing more. Okay, login, and now let's go back. It seems we input something wrong, right? Okay, this is not a correct username. We try to input as an invalid username, so that's why we cannot navigate to the secure space after login. But I think we can still get something like no, because you know what? This one will be failing, right? This one will be failing after 30 seconds here, you can see. So we probably cannot get the page title and the page URL here. So let's try to put something like this, remove the underscore at the end, and then try to run it again. Okay. Now let's try to rerun it. So now you can see if you go back to the IDE console here, you can see the page URL is now still the internet here, but the page title, but the page URL is now /secure here. So that means we can get the latest page URL here, right? So if you want to get the URL path, because for example, you have many systems like testing system, production system, or QA system. So the page URL here, I mean the base URL here, it will be different for each page, right? So we cannot compare with something like that. So what we do, we can compare something like the path here. So Java have a package with the name URL here from java.net, and then it will provide for us some util function that we can use to parse the information from the URL. So let me try to introduce. So URL, and in this case I will call it is something like URL parser equal new URL. Okay, and inside I will put the parameter as the PageUrl after login here. And then what I need to do, because this view needs something like, we need to handle an exception. So if we don't want to do that, we need to throw an error outside here, but try to put it in a try catch. Okay, so I will put something like try, and then, sorry for the typo. So here, let me try to move up here. So the URL, and then I catch an exception. And let's try to do something like print stock trade. So inside here, I want to assign some, I want to do something like URL parser.get. You see here, we can have something like get hot. And then we can have something like URL parser.get the path here. And I want to print out as well the information. So let's put the SOUT at the end, hit enter, and then try to call the system print out here. So I will put some prefix here to distinguish between the value that it will be printed out. So this should be something like page by URL. And another thing is, I think it should be the page URL path, yeah, here. And then if I try to run properly, we will get the page URL and the page URL path. Run it again. Okay, let's go back to the IDE console here. So you can see here, the page base URL is the internet hierarchy app.com, and it is correct. And the page URL path is /circle, and it is correct again. So by using this URL utility class from java.net, we can get easily the information from a URL string instead of try to split the string and then get the index, the first element, the second element. So for example, we have something like very complicated URL, so we cannot do like that. It's something like, inconvenient. Technically we can do, but it's just inconvenience. So we can use some util class from the URL here, and then we try to parse the URL information. I think that's enough, right? So in this lesson, we just learned something like how to get the title from a page, how to get a current URL from a page. And after that, we learned how to use the URL class from java.net to parse the information from a URL string. So try to practice yourself, and then see you in the next lesson.